Alright, we've got at least one friend of the channel in Rock on Ninja, the Muldrotha player. Well, we've got lands, but I want ramp, so I'm going to be really greedy and knock that back, even though I know I shouldn't. I actually quite like that hand. We just need to get into one more land, and then it's cultivate. Haven't been over the commanders, actually. Grumgully the Generous versus Muldrotha the Gravetide. Ghired Conclave Exile. And Thelon of Havenwood. Not seeing any turn 1 plays yet, and we're not about to change that. We do get into one of our combo pieces though, so now all we need is a persist creature and we'll be able to win the game. Need to do some setting up long before then though. Let's get, which one is the cycle land? That one. Sakura Tribalkai for the Ghired opponent. We could do with one of those ourselves actually. Either turn 2 mana ramp or another land we want. If we don't get into a land for this cultivate, it's going to be really bad news for us. Then a Lightning Greaves for Muldrotha, and they get into their first piece of coloured mana. One more draw to get into a land. Yeah, we're not looking good here. Let's just tap out and pass again. And the Ghired deciding to crack the Sakura Tribalkai, because I think they are correctly assuming that the Thelon isn't going to be swinging in at them. Then a Spore Crown Thalid. Each other creature you control, that's a fungus or saproling, gets +1/+1. Followed by a Parallel Lives for Ghired, so hopefully Ghired doesn't come down with haste. Then another piece of coloured mana for Muldrotha and a Stinkweed Imp with haste and Shroud. And it's fingers crossed that we get into a land here. Stinkweed Imp swings in at Ghired. Oh, and no land in the first 3 draws. That's unlucky. That's very unlucky. Alright, we'll have to get rid of Dragon Broodmother, I'm afraid. Apparently should have kept that open in hand. As slow as it was, we would have had, I think, 5 lands to play across 5 turns at least. But then we're just reliant on top decking as well, so we should be drawing into ramp or lands of some kind in the first 3 draws. I think it's like 52 cards in the deck are ramp and mana, most of which is 2 CMC or less. Followed by an Earthcraft, so the Fungus player is not going to be struggling on making mana. Earthcraft is the last thing you want to see up against a Saprolings player. Then they go for a Fungal Plots. This is sack 2 Saprolings to gain 2 life and draw a card. And then for 2 mana, exile a creature from your graveyard, make a Saproling. And the Naya player just really accelerating with mana. I think we're being left too far behind at this point. Then even more mana in Wood Elves. Yeah, we've got Sakura Tribalkai and Wood Elves in this deck, but you actually need to draw into lands to actually play them. And what is this? Not good enough. Binary Omega. It's just not good enough. Now Muldrotha is into all 3 of their colours, followed by an Oracle of Muldir, and they get into their Wood Elves as well. Just put that there. That is the top of the Muldrotha's library. And they can drop another land as well, so our opponent's hands are quite low, but at least they've got mana. Unlike us, let's see if we have any more luck this time. Now, we are getting a hit from the Stinkweed Imp and the Oracle of Muldir going in at the Saprolings player. Yeah, really, really need a land now. We can somewhat catch up with Cultivate. Alright. Oh, might as well cast it. We're doing nothing here. And it might mean that our opponents leave us alone a little bit. I mean, it's quite a slow game so far, but Ghired is about to go crazy. Then the Fungus player going for a Strip Mine onto the Naya player's red source. Yeah, perhaps should have gone for a red source with the Wood Elves, actually. Oh, I can't. I just can't stand those white borders. Yeah, they've gone... I don't know which land they went for, actually. Probably the Shock land. But they already had white in place, so perhaps going for red would have been better there. And now going for a Thalid Omnivore. That is 1 sack another creature, and it gets +2/+2. If a Saproling was sacrificed this way, gain 2 life. Enlightened Tutor, probably going in for a Signet now. Some kind of red source for our opponent. I'm sure they didn't want to go for a Mana Rock with that. Alright, well, Smothering Tithe, that's somewhat of a Mana Rock. But the mana won't last them forever. They will make double treasure tokens thanks to the parallel lives though, and we're certainly not going to be paying into the Smothering Tithe. Our opponent draws into the card that was on top, of course, and then reveals a Merrin of Clan Neltoth. Now the second Wood Elves of the game, and this is just... I don't know what this obsession is with people running white bordered Wood Elves, but this is what a Wood Elves is supposed to look like. It's even got the nice new frame, see? You've got to stay in the 21st century, I'm afraid, not with this. I don't even know what I can call it without swearing. I mean, we need a board wipe now just to get rid of this stuff. And then they somehow got into Merrin. Oh yeah, they shuffled their library with the Wood Elves and revealed a forest off the top. So playing the forest, and now there is a Nevinrael's Disc to get rid of those horrendous white bordered Wood Elves. Which is probably the sole reason it's in the deck. Now it is 2 damage going in at Ghired, and 1 damage going in at Ghired as well. So they chump block, that gets rid of one of the issues at the table. Forget Smothering Tithe and Parallel Lives, let's get rid of this thing. Now, are we going to draw a land? Don't be stupid. We're not drawing into any lands. Do we want to Blasphemous Act? How much is it going to cost? 9, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, 1 mana off Blasphemous Act. So on second thoughts, why don't we pay for Smothering Tithe? Then we'll just hold back the Hangerback Walker. Apparently it takes more than 5 draws to get into some mana. And we'll get rid of Champion of Lambholt. Oh, and it looks like the Fungus player is paying for the Smothering Tithe as well, and Muldrotha did as well, because I'm not seeing any treasure tokens here, so didn't expect to go around the table and not get Ghired into any mana. Everyone other than us is really low on cards at this point, and the first commander of the game comes down, Thelon of Havenwood. And the second commander of the game, off the back of a tiger. But without haste, fortunately for us. They do get 2 4/4 trample rhinos, thanks to the parallel lives. And we'll see if anyone bothers to pay into Smothering Tithe now that the Naya player is in their red mana. We're going to be able to Blasphemous Act at the very least next turn. And if our opponent gets down their commander, I think we would even forego the Cultivate in order to do it. Oh, with Tatyova down, yeah, I think that is worth a Blasphemous Act. Especially ripping 2 lands off the top. They're going to draw into the command tower. And reveal the Underrealm Lich, which they will draw into when they play the command tower. Then deciding to pay into Smothering Tithe when they draw off of Tatyova. I think they can still play the command tower from hand. I don't know if they... Yes, they can. They've got 2 lands a turn, thanks to Oracle, don't forget. So Smothering Tithe triggering for the... or resolving a trigger for the first time this game. And they draw into the card we just looked at. Now it's ramming out Excavator on top. How many fetches are in the graveyard? None, thankfully. They can go for Myriad Landscape. They've also got Command Beacon, which goes really well with Muldrotha. So you never have to pay more than 6 for Muldrotha as long as you've got Command Beacon and Raminat. The Lightning Greaves goes over onto the Stinkweed Imp. I would think they'd want to protect Tatyova. And then deciding to not swing in. Yeah, that's very surprising that they've decided not to protect the Tatyova. Of course. I tell you what, go and look at the deck list. If you never look at the deck lists, they're always in the description, but go and look at the deck list and look at the curve on this deck. Because we don't have a lot of big stuff. And we just drew into 2 in a row. In fact, just let me save you a job. Look at this. Deck list is in the description, like I just said. Look at this. Look. Peaks at 3 mana. Nearly peaks at 2 mana. And then it plummets all the way down. And look at this. 7 CMC. 2 in the deck. 8 CMC. 2 in the deck. 6 CMC. 5 in the deck. And we're drawing into things like Blasphemous Act and... what's that other thing? Verdurant something or other. Verdant Force. And what's the other thing as well? The Dragon Broodmother or whatever it is. Yeah. Dragon Broodmother. And, to top it all off, there's white border cards on this table. It's just not on. I think our opponent's going to go easy on us. Are they? Yeah, we'll pay for that. I really want to get Muldrotha wrapped up in the Blasphemous Act. But now it's just a case of seeing how long it takes us. It's a game in and of itself. Seeing how long it takes us to actually draw into some mana. That is 6 draws now. So you know when I say that I don't want to mulligan a hand that I should mulligan because Magic Online punishes you? This is what I'm talking about. Then a Sylvan Library from the Fungus player. Followed by a Scoop. Because reasons. Okay. Yeah, just saying that he has to go for some reason, so alright. Does that take us off Blasphemous Act now? 3, 6, 7, 8, and 9. No, it doesn't. We can still do that if we want to. Now, an Idol of Oblivion. And Ghired is definitely going to be swinging in. I imagine they're going to swing in at us because they want to make a token so that they can draw a card off of this. And I think this has to swing in to make a token, doesn't it? Yeah, whenever it attacks, you populate. So they'll get a couple more rhinos here. Looks like it is all going in at Muldrotha because Muldrotha is going to become the biggest threat. They're going to become a threat faster than we are, I can tell them that much. I think the Ghired player is being kind to us here. End up losing their commander because the Stinkweed Imp blocks it. That has a weird Death Touch type effect. Then they draw a card with the Eidolon of Oblivion. They're only a couple of mana away from getting a couple of Eldrazi out with that, actually. Armada Worm brings down a couple of 5/5s with it. 6 mana for 15 power with Trample isn't bad. And another land on top with the Oracle of Muldaya. And they decided to dredge the Stinkweed Imp back to hand, so they've got a couple of lands in hand, or in the graveyard as well. So if they want to get down that Ramunap, then they can play those as well, but they're probably best clearing stuff off the top. Especially a fetch with a Tatyova in play is really good. They go for playing the Bloodstained Mire. They'll gain a life and draw. And I didn't see what they drew into there. I very quickly saw the swamp on top for them to draw into when they played the Windswept Heath, but it hides the top of the library when this triggers on the stack for some reason. Now they've got life from the loam, yeah. Muldrotha is really going to start going crazy at this point. And then a Spore Frog as well. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt. If we get into a land for a start, but if we get into any persist creatures, we can go for a Blasting Station combo, which makes us not care about Sporing Frog, or Spore Frog, whatever it's called. Now a Nissa Vastwood Seer on top as well, and a Perpetual Timepiece. I don't know if our opponent drew into that, or if they shuffled the library. Oh no, Nissa Vastwood Seer is in the graveyard now. I don't know how they milled. Oh, with this thing, whenever you draw, you select something and mill instead. It's not showing us all the cards that are on top, so I'm afraid I can't keep track of what's in our opponent's hand. One of the downsides of Magic Online. But Muldrotha's come into play. And like I said, this is coming to play this turn as well. And Muldrotha has 8 cards in hand. Now a Lightning Greaves going on to Muldrotha. And we'll see if they swing in with anything. Probably just going to hold back because of all these creatures. Although these things have trample anyway. Okay, draw number 7. And finally get into a land. Certainly, do we want to go for Cultivate? No, I think we need to Blasphemous Act here, because I think some of these things are going to start swinging in at us, which is fair enough. So let's pay. We'll say yes to the Smothering Tithe. Then we'll go Prismatic Vista. Then we'll go in for a Mountain. And we'll go Blasphemous Act, and then we're going to have to race up to some mana next turn. Luckily, our opponent does not have much in the Smothering Tithe. I'm surprised everyone has been paying into Smothering Tithe, actually. It has been a boon for us. The Ghired is going to cost 7 to get out, isn't it? 2, 4, 6. If they drop a land, they can get it. But they haven't dropped a land immediately. Just going for Swiftfoot Boots. Followed by Flame Shadow Conjuring. Whenever a non-token enters under your control, you can pay red to make a token copy of it. I think that's just creatures, isn't it? Yeah, non-token creature. Exiles at the beginning of the next end step. Noteworthy that they will be able to copy their commander with that, and then choose to keep the original over the token copy. Oh, Defense of the Heart, that's not good. Yeah, Defense of the Heart's one of them broken cards that's not particularly fun. Usually just goes for a 2-card combo of some kind. And then a Nevinral's Disc, followed by a Perpetual Timepiece. So deciding not to get their commander back out. I think they're just going to aim for a Nevinral's Disc next turn and get rid of all of this stuff. And maybe they don't care so much about losing their stuff, especially when Defense of the Heart is in play. Nevinral's Disc will kind of act like a sack outlet for that. We get into another land, and we'll give our opponent the 2 Smothering Tithes, or the 2 treasure tokens from Smothering Tithe. Thankfully, we've still got 2 opponents left in the field, so let's go for the Cultivate. And now we've got a land for next turn as well. So had we drawn into a land 6 turns sooner, we would have been in a way better position than we're in now. Let's go for a couple of green sources here. And then we'll hold back the Thopter, just in case someone gets something big, scary and hasty down. There is a Swiftfoot Boots in play, and I don't think pecking someone for 1 is going to make a whole lot of difference to anything. Argument to be made there for going for Krosan Grip onto the Nevinral's Disc so that our opponent can't get rid of that. But yeah, I was going to say I think the Ghired is going to have a lot of creatures in play by the time our opponent wants rid of Defense of the Heart anyway. It is. This is the one I'm thinking about, isn't it? At the beginning of your upkeep, an opponent controls 3 or more creatures. You sacrifice that, yeah. I assumed that the Ghired player was going to have a lot of creatures in play. So I decided to just go for Ramp instead, and I'm glad I did now, after seeing the Avenger. And then going to sacrifice a treasure token for red, in order to get a copy of the Avenger of Zendikar. Don't think we've seen if they have played a land or not yet. Oh, and I forgot, yeah, it's 2 token copies thanks to the parallel lives, so a lot of excellent cards working together in tandem here. So with 3 Avenger of Zendikars in play, they play the Sunpetal Grove. And now Perpetual Timepiece is being activated. Put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. And they mill into a land. And Pernicious Deed. Pernicious Deed will actually be very useful. These have haste, so that's going to be at least 10 damage flying around. They're going to get exiled at the end of the turn. But because there's 3 Avenger of Zendikar triggers, it is 3 plus counters on all the plants. Oh, and then the Swiftfoot Boots onto one of the Avenger of Zendikars as well, so 15 damage going in on them. Now, as far as I can tell, our opponent has time to untap. This goes on the stack. Then they can crack the Nevinrel's Disc, blow everything up, and then this resolves, and they can go for whatever they're going for. Drawing a card with the Idol of Oblivion as well. Now, Defense of the Heart is on the stack. Let's see what our opponent does here. They do not go for Nevinrel's Disc, surprisingly, so they might be going for a combo win straight away here, and they don't feel the need to. Well, there is Protean Hulk. So they're obviously looking to kill that off with the Nevinrel's Disc. I might, just for the fun of it, if they don't crack that before our turn, I might just go after that with the Krosan Grip, just for the fun of it. Okay, they're going to mill 2 again. This time getting into Lotus Cobra and another land. But it looks like they're going for it on their turn. And this destroys everything, apart from Planeswalkers and lands near enough. Then World Shaper will trigger and get all the lands out of the graveyard. Protean Hulk is what we're worried about here, though. Okay, well, they've just swapped the Protean Hulk for the Multani, apparently, so that's fair enough. Can they give this thing haste, is the question. Muldrotha is going to be 8 to cast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then play the Lightning Greaves. And they can put that on here and swing in for a bunch of damage. Got 6 cards in hand. No, just deciding to crack the Myriad Landscape, so they just want some more mana, apparently, over getting their commander out. I think they've still got the mana for their commander. 3, 6, and 8. Yes, they do. And then maybe they can play the Myriad Landscape out of the bin if they go for Muldrotha. Out comes the Muldrotha. And all of a sudden, we're drawing into lands, aren't we? Grumgully and a Wood Elf seems alright, because this thing... Oh, it does have Trample. I was going to say we could chump block it with Wood Elves. It's just a case of hoping for a persist creature at this point, I think. So let's go Verdant Catacombs, we'll crack that. Then we'll get down Grumgully the Generous. Then we'll go in for the Wood Elves, and this will come in with a plus counter on it. Turn 9 Wood Elves. Bet my opponents are quaking in their boots at this. This will come in untapped, so we'll go for the Stomping Ground so that we don't have to take life, because something tells me we're going to be losing a lot of life sometime soon. Depends where this thing swings in, really. Might be that our opponent just goes in for the Ghired player because they've shown themselves to be much scarier than us. Still only on 1 red source with that Tiger, though. Oh, a Giant Adaphage, yeah. That might definitely take the Multani into the Ghired. And they get into another red source. That makes me much more comfortable for them. Oh, and I've noticed as well, Dark Depths is in play for Muldrotha, so we just have to keep our fingers crossed that we don't see the Thespian Stage, it's called, isn't it? But Muldrotha's in play. A heap of mana. How much stuff is in their graveyard? 23 cards in the graveyard, including some lands. I don't know how they must have dredged something back. Oh no, they sacrificed the forests for the Lotus Field that I didn't see come in. There we are. So they've sacrificed 2 forests for the Lotus Field. Then cracking a Fabled Passage. And we'll see what our opponent can do with all of this. Cracking the Myriad Landscape as well. And tapping down a bunch of mana. This might just be a huge Genesis Wave, or... What's the other one? Villainous Wealth? Is that Villainous Wealth is Sultai, isn't it? Not Junk. Yeah, I'm sure that's a Sultai card. Well, it looks like a big X spell to me. It is a Villainous Wealth. And that is X15 pointed at the Ghired player. Well, and they got some stuff there, didn't they? Including more card draw from Oran Frostfang. Oh god, Eternal Oketra. Felden of the Third Path, when you've got a full graveyard, isn't terrible. Teferi's Protection they might not care about. A Path to Exile on the Giant Adaphage sounds good. More mana. More mana. They'll actually trigger the Dragon Master Outcast at the beginning of their turn. Anointed Procession will get them into 2 dragon tokens. And then Flame Rush Rider, I don't know what this does. That has a dash cost. Whenever it attacks, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature you control. And it's exiled at the end of combat, yeah, so that seems really good. They can't make a copy of this because it'll die to the legend rule. But they can make a copy of this thing. Don't think they've got any haste enablers, thankfully. Well, it looks like they are playing pretty much everything. If they'd gone for Teferi's Protection... No, they might want to swing in, actually. Yeah, if they don't want to swing in, they could have gone for Teferi's Protection first, have that resolve. Apparently they do want to go for it. And then have all this on the stack. Because what would happen then is all of this would resolve one by one. And then our opponent would end with the Teferi's Protection, and all of this stuff would be phased out and protected. All this means really is that the Multani isn't swinging in at us. Alright, so our opponent gets a bunch of stuff down. If they play a creature, which they obviously can quite easily, I'm sure they've got plenty of creatures in the bin, they'll get a couple of... What are they? Zombie tokens. They're going to get a couple of dragon tokens at the beginning of the turn. They can get a couple of tokens with Feldon. This is all thanks to the Anointed Procession. Oh wow, we can't draw anything except lands all of a sudden. Would you look at that? How annoying. I think us going in for the Tendershoot Dryad is an idea. If we go 5 mana and we can hold up the Cross and Grip. So we'll show at least a little bit of what we want to do in this deck. And we do have the City's Blessing, so they are going to be some big saprolings. I wanted to build Grumgully ever since I saw it, and I was actually inspired by my most recent opponent of Grumgully. Can't remember who I was playing, but the most recent video against Grumgully played a Tendershoot Dryad, and this is a pet card of mine, so decided to put it in this deck as well. And that game was actually the game that spurred me on to finally make this commander. And hopefully you've either all already seen a video, or you're going to see a video of Grumgully actually doing what it's supposed to do, which we haven't seen in this game. Now, an Hour of Reckoning. Destroy all non-token creatures. We get to keep our saprolings at least, but do we care about getting rid of Anointed Procession anymore? God Eternal Oketra will go into Ghired's graveyard, and then I don't know if it's a choice actually. You may put it into its owner's library, third from the top. Yeah, they've decided not to do that. Then tapping out, we'll see if the Sultai player has anything to do with this Anointed Procession. We can blow it up in response. My plan was, at the end of the Naya player's turn, to go for Cross and Grip onto this, because they were going to get a lot of tokens this turn, but the Ghired player had it covered. Now then, Crop Rotation probably goes for Thespian Stage so that they can get the Marit Lage token. And I don't think we can do anything now. Even if we draw into a Persist creature, we need to recast Grumgully and get down the Blasting Station and the Persist creature, which is too much mana. What land did they go for? Yeah, that's a Thespian Stage, followed by Kakusho, and that Multani is up to a 29/29. Then a Vraska Golgari Queen. They can sacrifice a permanent to gain a life and draw a card. That's probably what they go for. Can't imagine they're too worried about our saproling. They decide to sacrifice the Kakusho, so we'll both be drained for 5 each. Both at 31 life. Our opponent goes up to 22. Couple more lands and Multani's got lethal on someone. Going for Oracle, yeah, probably in an attempt to get into more lands. But they've got Mystic Remora on top. They do have some lands in the bin, but they'd have to cast the Raminap if that's still floating around in here somewhere. Yeah, Raminap's there. I don't think they've played anything out of the graveyard yet, so they could put lethal on our opponent. They've gotten into another land, probably from the graveyard. Have to see if our opponent spots it. Okay, deciding to go for Thespian Stage onto the Dark Depths. They're going to go down a land here. In fact, they'll go down 2 lands, won't they? Oh no, this thing cares about graveyard lands as well, doesn't it? Yeah, so forget what I was just saying. They don't need to play things out of the graveyard at all. They just need another land to come out of their deck, either into play or into the graveyard. Now playing the Lightning Greaves, and I think it's Cross and Grip time now. Sacrificing the Fabled Passage, and that... Oh, that's not nice. Our opponent assuming that they're going to be swung in at. That's the type of thing that changes the course of a game. People scooping at positions like that. Because we're actually going to go for Cross and Grip here. Let's wait for our opponent to swing in. Actually, no, don't be stupid. We don't wait for our opponent to swing in at all. We go for the Cross and Grip there. So we're still taking a huge hit. In fact, we're still dying because this thing has trample. But I'm going to draw the next card, and we'll see if our opponent's scooping there actually affects the course of the game. Yeah, it's all well and good thinking that you've got the game lost, but you should, especially if it's just a case of your opponent swinging in and attacking you, you should take it really, because it actually changes the course of the game. Like, our opponent is swinging in at us here because they don't have a choice. But it might be that we drew into a board wipe maybe, or something like that. I mean, we're not going to do anything against Marit Lage, but we've got a few attacks to take from Marit Lage, and that's a few turns. So like I said, we're probably not getting into anything. But, well, the chance was there for us to get into something, and that was taken away from us by our opponent. Yeah, getting into our mana all of a sudden. This is the stuff we want. The Great Henge Loyal Apprentice is superb with our commander. Card draw with Elemental Bond and Garrick's Pack Leader and the Henge. And the Zendikar Resurgent. Yeah. Just incredibly unlucky there. But we got to see some good stuff from friend of the channel, Rock On Ninja, with their Muldrotha deck. And got to see some good stuff from the Naya player as well, the Ghired player. They had a lot of big tokens in play at some point. We'll just put it down to a funny experience. Hopefully you all enjoyed this game. I will definitely get another game in with Grumgully because I've been really looking forward to this commander, and it can do some degenerate stuff according to my playtesting, which we didn't see any of here, but hopefully I'll show you that in the next video. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.